Hey guys, VaulSC here. Hope that you are doing well. In this bat rep, I'm going to be talking about a game I played recently using 100 Kingdoms as always against my very friendly Spires opponent Chris in the local Auckland meta. Really looking forward to playing him and seeing his new Siegebreaker in action, which he's just purchased. Sadly, I have to spoil this bat rep for you and say that the Siegebreaker did not actually make it into combat. It just sort of was on the wrong side of the battlefield for a little while. So we won't really get to see the proper action, but at least the miniature is on the table, and that's what counts. The other thing about this game, just to give you the other spoiler, is that I really got my butt whooped in this game, and was thinking of not even bothering to do the bat rep, to be honest. But I think it's important that, you know, as a YouTuber that does wargaming bat reps, that from time to time, when you do lose, and of course you do lose some games, it's good to post those games as well. First of all, just because it's very humbling, you know, you don't really want to be the kind of guy who just posts only your bat rep wins and just tries to stroke your own ego and make people think that you're like the most amazing player in the world. It's not really like that. And the other thing too is that, you know, it gives me a chance to sort of explain some things that I do wrong from a strategic point of view and where I drop the ball, and we can learn from that, and you can sort of see me getting put in my place, which is great fun. So let's go and have a look at the army lists that were going to be used for this. There's Crest sitting up for the game there. But if we go over here, my list here, I'm still using the Priority Commander Order of the Sword because I've taken the time and the money to 3D print the proxies for this. Using Standard of Steel because I'm desperate to keep them alive for a bit longer. I want the Order of Sword to be just having more rounds where they can use their good clash and their good attacks. Not that they have a lot of attacks, but Relentless Drill kind of helps, and it's mainly the character that pumps out the attacks. So you can see here, eccentric fighting style is hilarious because it gives them more attacks at the very high clash value and good cleave. Well, cleave 1. It's a bit of a risky one because it means that he re-rolls his own defense rolls in a duel, so that is quite painful. But the good thing is, at least with the 8 attacks, he should be able to trade with the enemy character pretty convincingly as well. Eccentric fighting style is normally the kind of upgrade you take on your Noble Lord when you have this banner called Regalia of the Empire, because it means that they don't actually get broken. So if you want to decline the duel and not suffer the downside of this, you're fine with that. Using the 4 stands of Order of the Ashen Dawn, just because I've got my Founders exclusive model, really liking the 4 group. Imperial Officer, as always, Brace for Impact on your feet, my 2 favourite ones. Sorry, Brace for Impact is actually not that, it's this, because I prefer the ranged guys. Although I will be switching to using Bastion a bit more once he joins Steel Legion, which I haven't assembled yet. Same unit of Gilded Legion as always, and of course the Priest, Militia, always do those guys, and the Mage. Now, again, trying out School of Water. For some reason, I forgot to have an additional stand of Men-at-Arms here. I kind of wanted to have 6, because that gives me a better chance of keeping some of them alive for her to heal back, and focused, of course, to make sure that she can get as many back as possible. Now, my opponent's list, this is an approximation of what he's using. So I do remember the Highborn. One thing I find is extremely boring about the Highborn that I feel like Parabellum can just do much better at is that when you look at the mutations, everybody uses these 3. You got the Aura of Death 4 for the whole unit, Command Pheromones for +1 Resolve, and Pheromantic Override for the free move. Everybody just uses those specific 3, even though you've got all of these mutations to use, and they're all kind of interesting. But Parabellum just has done a very bad job balancing this list and making the other ones, you know, strategically and tactically interesting for the Highborn to use. So everybody just gravitates to that same 3 upgrades. It's extremely boring and, you know, very narrow and not very rich in terms of tactics, which I'm disappointed by. So they can do better. Siegebreaker Behemoth, seeing him for the first time, again, doesn't make it into combat this game. The thing about this beast is that he's got Smite, but he's only got 8 attacks, and there's no flurry, unlike the Abomination, which he's also using, right? So the Abomination does get the flurry. So Siegebreaker is obviously going to be very good against something like Order of the Ashen Dawn, which are defense 4 with Blessed, but against just a basic unit of Men-at-Arms, maybe not as good with Smite, but it's going to take us a few games to really see it working. Biomancer, I'm sure he's got a bunch of upgrades in this little group here, but I didn't bother to go and ask him for his army list. I know that he's got 7 of them, plus the A-Bomb. Mimetic Assassin's a really fun one. Adrenal Surge means that you can almost be assured of killing any enemy character with the +2 clash and +4 attacks, but then you trade him by losing him. But he's only 100 points, so just a great little character to whip over using his free Seek New escort and then fight an enemy character. Very, very cool design. And the Vanguard clones with 6 attacks, just quite dangerous. I mean, they aren't the toughest unit in the world, but if you can get a good round off with that attack 6, it's really nice. No cleave, though, which is sometimes a bit of a weakness of Spires lists if they don't have a lot of cleave stuff, but the new Siegebreaker does really help on the can opening front. The Executor with 2 groups of Force-Grown drones is the tax with the Marksman clones, and the Brute drones can benefit from superior creations as well, which is why it's quite good to include them in this Highborn list here as well. Okay, so we are playing, I believe it's melee. It's the one with the 4 zones, as you can see down the bottom there. So my starting lineup here with the 3 lights is the Mercenaries, Rangers, and Militia. So bringing on the Imperial Officer in the Rangers for free as always. Card stack looking like that, just wasting a couple of activations with the characters, then bringing on the troops, with the Militia being the most important placement. So he's bringing on his Force-Grown drones, I'm bringing on the Mercenary crossbows. He's got the large unit here through the center as well, with the 7 plus the Biomancer. I'm taking the right-hand flank with the Imperial Officer and the Rangers, everybody using Vanguard, of course. On the extreme left, we have the Fierce Priest and Militia, just next to the Mercenaries, and he's able to take that zone to the left there. Moving on to turn 2, same sort of deal. We've got the Priest, the Officer, the Mage, then the units, so Militia, Mercenaries, Rangers, and Men-at-Arms, with the Men-at-Arms just coming on last, because I want to sort of see where I want to get bogged down in combat and hopefully get some mileage out of the School of Water. Militia moving up here because the Priest is a medium character, so that will allow me to score points from the left-hand zone quite nicely. His Force-Grown drones just deciding to avoid me, just turning around and going to the other side of that building, because he knows he'll just get beaten up by the Militia. The Force-Grown drones by themselves, when they're unsupported, they're like Defense 1 with a shield and Resolve 1, so yeah, they won't be achieving too much. And seeing that that's happening, my Mercenaries also sort of turning around and focusing their attention to the center of the table. And then you have the other unit of Force-Grown drones, just a group of 3 units of Force-Grown drones. Of course, the Biomancer has some abilities he can use on the other smaller units that are beyond his basic sort of escort there. The character over here, the Imperial Officer, using the mobility of the Rangers to move into this other large zone here. So at the end of turn 2, I'll be due to get 3 points from each of the side zones, plus 2 for having a couple at once. So that's 8 points, which is nice, because of course he's a medium character. My opponent, seeing that this is happening, decides to move on with his Marksman clones. He's just got enough movement to move onto this hill here and shoot at me. And because it's just borderline range here, he's only got the middle 2 stands. So they're shooting at me and doing a bit of damage anyway. But extremely dangerous unit, and this tells me that I probably should just gap it and get out of there. Because a couple of turns of this unit shooting at my Rangers will, wipe me out and I'll lose my Warlord. So with that in mind, I decided to run in here with the Men-at-Arms. This is probably the best unit that I have to combat the Marksman clones, because they are defense 3, they go up to 4 with Bastion. I will take a bunch of casualties from the arrows, but then the Mage can actually heal them up. The Mage also has an alternate spell in the School of Water that allows her to do half volley against enemy troops. So this is a great unit to be taking that objective and just picking up from where the Imperial Officer left off. The Biomancer moving the main group of Force-Grown drones into the middle of the table here, and this is where the Vanguard clones show up. And as the name implies, being called Vanguard clones, they have the Vanguard ability, so they move 3 times. And if we just jump back to this beautiful army list over here, Mimetic Assassin's movement 8, so he doesn't slow down the Vanguard clones. When the Executor is also movement 6, so they're very speedy. So 6 times 3 from Vanguard plus the Standard Bearer means they can go up, 19 inches? So I wasn't expecting that. I probably should have. Like when I got to sort of talk to him about his army list before the game, I should really have just been watching out for this kind of play, because they rush up the table, and I really need to be careful about dealing with this unit, because it is quite dangerous. They have 6 attacks per stand, and the assassin is really kitted for combat as well, so it's dangerous, right? So here's a bit of a close-up of their miniatures. He hasn't really painted the assassin just yet, but I'm sure he will in due time. Okay, so this is a zoomed out look of the battlefield at the end of that round. He hasn't got his Vanguard clones within range, so as predicted, I pick up 8 objective points here. So you can see on the left-hand flank, I'm completely uncontested. The priest can keep scoring. On the right-hand flank, I'm going to need to get the liquid formation, reform with the rangers, and run away. I've already lost 1 stand. And then the men-at-arms can attempt to take out or deal with the mimetic assassin. And obviously the mage can get assassinated by the mimetic guy, but she can always decline the duels for a little while, so I'm hoping to make that work. And then through the center, his force-grown drones, I haven't quite worked out what I'm going to do to deal with them, but it's going to be a combination of the Order of the Sword or the Gilded Legion, possibly both, one or the other, to knock this out. One thing that I feel like is very good to do against the Biomancer is to have a combat character there that activates last in your stack, so that you can challenge him to a duel. He has to decline, the unit breaks, and then it does leave open the possibility of activating that character again at the start of the turn to challenge the enemy while they're broken. And then if you knock out the Biomancer, the rest of the unit's going to be extremely easy to kill. Alright, so the first card of activation has to be the Rangers, because they have to run away from the Vanguard clones. Then it's the officer, and just like there's a group of characters whose abilities just get wasted here to buy me time. Then all of the units activate, with the men-at-arms going second to last, because I want to be able to counter-charge or counter-clash his Vanguard clones. And then the mage to heal back if he's managed to do any damage to me. So luckily, winning the Supremacy roll, the Imperial Officer just gaps it and gets out of there, so it means he's not going to get wiped out for free, which is, good. And then the Vanguard clones attempt to charge and then clash the Men-at-Arms, which would have been a great play, because I haven't kicked in Bastion yet, and that would have done a lot of damage to me. But my opponent rolls a 1 on the dice, and I don't think he did have a standard, apparently, for this game. So they just fall flat in their faces, and they don't charge me. So I have an opportunity to charge and clash him. But again, Men-at-Arms, no veterans, only Relentless Drill. He does have Bastion, so it's going to be quite hard to do damage. So the Imperial Officer just hanging out. He's played his card. Over here, we've got the Force-Grown drones moving in to support the Vanguard clones. Not that they need it, but just really hanging out, making a nuisance of themselves. The Mercenary Crossbowmen having a crack at the Force-Grown drones, but, they do have a lot of regen over there, so I'm not really going to achieve very much. This unit is just waiting for an opportunity to be a screen, just to be a speed bump that gets in the way. So the Biomancer, as you can see, activating and doing some repairs and healing and special abilities coming up the butt. Now, for reinforcements, we have the Order of the Sword with the Priory Commander on foot appearing, and I'm just moving through to the left here. The important thing about this placement is they want to score from this zone. That little button on the ground there represents a radius. That's the middle of the zone. So they're going to want to get points from that. To the left of them, they're just leaving a bit of space there for the Gilded Legion to show up, or the Ashen Dawn. So really have high hopes for this unit to both score and to do quite well against the Biomancer's unit in the long run. Here's a bit of more of a close-up, so you can sort of see their 3D printed miniatures there. Right, he's also bringing his little Force-Grown drones through here, and I think the plan is to use them as a little bit of a screen to make sure it's harder for me to charge in with the Order of the Sword. Over here, the Militia just repositioning just a little bit more. I'm waiting for him to respond with something on this flank. He's still got an Abomination and a Siegebreaker Beast and the Avatar's unit, so one of those things is going to appear on the flank. I doubt that he would, just let me continue scoring for the rest of the game, because I get a lot of points from this, so just repositioning a little bit and anticipating the future threats. Force-Grown drones, again, just reforming a little bit, moving a little bit, just, being careful about where they're positioned in the middle. Then we have the Gilded Legion show up. I'm forming them up in a row of 5 here, but I have the Drill Masters, so their attacks 5 each, plus the leader, plus the Relentless Drill of 3 attacks from the back. So one thing that I've really been overlooking in Conquest Last Argument of Kings is how important it is to use a wider frontage in some situations. It can be better to have a shorter frontage, like a narrower frontage, if you are having issues with terrain and getting in the way of your own units and just being, technical about maneuvers. But if there's nothing stopping you, you really should be deploying a combat unit as wide as possible to get the additional attacks. Otherwise, you're just, leaving the damage there on the table without using it. So that's something I've sort of taken to heart here. And the top right corner of my Gilded Legion is in range of his Force-Grown Drones for a charge next turn if I want to go down that path. This unit here, the Gilded Legion, will inflict a colossal amount of damage on the Force-Grown Drones, but with Lethal Demise, I'll also take a bunch of hits as well. But I'm happy to do the trade, because if I can take a quick control of the center, that'll be great. His Force-Grown Drones, if they charge me in the flank, well, I do have Iron Discipline. The Pike Formation will only kick in from the front, but, the Force-Grown Drones can't do that much damage to me. Over here, the Marksman clones, just moving a bit further up, they have the advantage of this hill, so they can shoot over the Vanguard clones and do a bit of damage to the men-at-arms, which is not really the thing bothering me because I can heal them back, but in the long run, having to take hits from both the Mimetic Assassin and the Vanguard clones and the Marksman clones will be really punishing. So I do manage to charge in here, but the problem with this is that I've lost a stand. I need to kill a couple of stands to have more medium stands on the objective. These guys are Clash 2 going up to Clash 3 with no cleave. He's Defense 4, and they do have decent resolve, so I did almost no damage to him, and that's going to be a problem because if I'm inflicting no damage when I do clashes, but he's like taking off a couple of stands every time he attacks me, this whole flank here is going to fold, and I'll have nothing really to deal with this side of the battlefield. And if I move in with something like Ashen Dawn, they should be able to do the trick, but again, he does have that range unit back yet there, which I don't really want to have peppering me, so may not have played it too well. So here he is, the Siegebreaker Behemoth, just coming into the left-hand flank here. I was kind of happy that he did this because it meant that I can now make the decision to not commit any more troops to this side of the battlefield. I can just stall them for time with the men-at-arms, and he'll have the Marksman clones and the Executor and the Mimetic Assassin and the Vanguard clones, and now this beast all on his left flank, and I've committed only the men-at-arms. The Rangers can now run away, and I can just sort of let him camp this, and what he's going to have to do is he's going to have to leave at least one medium unit just sitting there for the rest of the game, accumulating points without fighting. So it's not the end of the world. Like, this is a situation that I can really deal with. He's painted this minute shop very quickly, by the way. It's looking pretty good, but he's only just bought it as well, so it's a really good effort to get that much paint on it so quickly. So over here, the mage goes in for the heal, which is really cool. My opponent informed me that when you're healing units back, if you don't have enough heal points to bring back the full stand, like you can't actually bring the stand back, there's some sort of wording around that, which was extremely disappointing. And I felt, a lot of despair about that because, Parabellum have already sort of made the mage so lopsided in the sense that the Fire School is clearly the best one, and the other ones you can't find the justification to take them. And when somebody branches out and tries one of the schools, like I'm doing now with the School of Water, and you run into little things that turn out to be quite weak about that school, it's very disheartening. It's a very poorly designed character in my view. So they do need to relook at that and actually come back to some of the other schools of magic and redesign them. And that's the case for a lot of spellcasters in this game, sadly. You look at a character like the Ardent Kerouig and even the Fire Sorcerer. They brought out the School of Magma recently, but School of Earth is kind of a little bit more maligned. They just need to be making sure that when you have a character that has a range of options, all of those options are viable and interesting and worthwhile. Now, this is probably the most crucial play in the game, and what you can see happening here is that the Abomination, with its very, very high speed, is able to move into the flank here and get to a spot where in the next turn it can charge my militia in the flank. And I've brought this on myself because I've not really positioned them in a way that can stop this. What I really should have done here is I should have had the militia facing to the left or spread out with more stands. There was no real reason to have allowed this, and it means that if my opponent draws the first card, the Abomination charges into the flank, and that's a disaster for me because I've also made the mistake of taking the what do you call this guy? The Knight Errant or something like that. It's the officer for the militia that gives the command stand a couple of extra attacks. If you look at the officer's option, this is only 10 points, so it's cheaper than the Servite, which I normally take, and you get more attacks for using Smite with the Elysian Fragment. So that was a bit greedy, but it does mean that the unit's resolve 2, and the Theos Priest is only resolve 2. So charging in the flank there, I'm sort of saving on 2s, it's -1 for Terrifying, so saving on 1s, and I've got to reroll any successes. So that means that any hits inflicted, and it's going to be from the side so I don't get any shield, any wounds inflicted are going to practically double. So his chances of wiping out this unit in one go is just way, way higher, and I shouldn't have allowed that to happen, so that's me dropping the ball. So this photo shows you the end of that turn. On the right-hand flank, I'm losing because the men-at-arms are up against all of those Vanguard clones and the Siegebreaker and the shooters. On the left-hand flank, I need to win the roll and activate my militia first, otherwise I'm going to lose them to the Abomination. In the middle, I am going to beat the Force-Grown drones with all of my heavy infantry quite handily, but he still hasn't brought in his Avatar yet, and I still haven't brought in my Ashen Dawn. So with losing two flanks out of 3, it could be a really difficult game here. So Ashen Dawn coming on last, I need to see where his Avatar appears before bringing in the Ashen Dawn. The first activation is actually going to be the men-at-arms because I need them to survive for a bit longer. They need to get Bastion up, they need to get the first clash off, and then I'm going to activate the militia to try and deal with the Abomination. At the time that I made the sequence, I wasn't quite sure how badly the Abomination would kill me. So what happens, of course, is he wins the roll. Abomination runs into the flank here and completely murders and just wipes out that unit, which made me feel really bad, to be honest. You know, it was my fault. I mean, I should have taken a Servite in this unit. I should really be taking maybe 1 extra stand of them. I should be preparing, like, if you know your opponent has an Abomination, I mean, Abominations do this tactic all of the time, so you need to make sure that you position expecting units to come on from the reinforcement line in the flank. And, you know, if he goes in through the front and I've got a Servite and I've got a bunch of stands, the Abomination isn't going to do enough damage to wipe them out. If I've got, you know, 3 stands and a priest remaining, then I can put in Elysian Fragment, I can attack back, I can actually kill the Abomination, and I can stay camped on this flank. My opponent would have to then commit the Brute Drones or the Avatar to beating them, and it just gives me time to defend against that and have a lot of points to score later in the game. On this side, the men-at-arms doing a lot to attack the Vanguard clones, but again, Clash 2 goes up to Clash 3, no cleave, just doesn't really get the work put in. His archers, marksman clones, really doing a lot of damage now because they can aim, or they can just move forward and volley. They've got the hill, they can shoot over friendly troops, so killing even more men-at-arms. In the center, the Gilded Legion charging the Force-Grown drones. This pumps out a ton of attacks because they've got 5 per stand at the front. That's 20 plus the leader plus 3 from the back, 6 from the back. So 27 attacks at Clash 4 effectively. So that absolutely murders this block of Force-Grown drones, but I take a bunch of wounds as well. I think I lost a couple of stands from their lethal demise. I left his last Force-Grown drone on like 1 wound left or something stupid. I can't remember why his unit didn't get broken and shattered, but the end result was that he just survived with some stands. I just can't quite remember the sequence of play, and I've got 4 of my stands left here. Mimetic Assassin attempting to challenge the mage. I'm of course declining that challenge, and over here the archers just turning around to try and shoot at that Abomination, or at least screen him to get into the way. My rangers, of course, can use double time to march through to the middle of the table. What they want to do is they want to get to a position where they can start scoring and just staying out of the combat and getting the Warlord to safety. Biomancer healing some troops back because he's wonderful at doing that, rallying the Force-Grown drones as well. Because my Order of the Sword did not have an opportunity to go after the main block of VaulSC drones because the Gilded Legion have already done that, I decided to just rush in here and pick off this smaller group of Force-grown drones, and also keep my unit closer to that objective on the left there as well. So once both units of Force-grown drones have they've been wiped out, I can then reform and try and just go after both of those small objectives. On this side, because I don't want to go after a Siegebreaker with this group of Ashen Dawn, and I don't need to go through the middle of the table because my heavy infantry are winning there, I'm moving through the left flank. I want to wipe out the Abomination and then camp that objective for a little bit. In a couple of turns' time, I can move my Imperial Officer around to this objective, and he's a medium character, so he can start scoring. That'll free up the order of the Ashen Dawn to then move around past that building to the top right and get back into the game. But it's just awkward. I've sort of played my hand badly throughout this game, which is why my units are not sort of really in their best places. They're looking good, though. You can't deny that they at least are, nice to look at, if not being well played. So, opponent showing up in the middle of the table with the Avatara and the Lineage Highborn. These guys are going to be a severe threat to the Order of the Sword and the Gilded Legion, and they're going to be able to score here as well. So my opponent playing it well by bringing them into a really sensible location. They can score, they can really do a lot of work late game, so I'm in a lot of trouble here. My men-at-arms have now been wiped out by the Mimetic Assassin and the Vanguard clones, which is unfortunate for me, and a Siegebreaker is able to just move over top of them, and he's just completely in control of this flank now. Through the middle, he's got his group of Force-grown drones threatening my Gilded Legion to the flank. We then move on to a new turn where I'm going to activate the mercenaries first, just to get into the way of his units, which are appearing now, and then the Ashen Dawn could potentially take on his Abomination. Order of the Sword going last because they want to be able to destroy his Force-grown drones and reform. And this is a bit of a zoomed out look at the battlefield. You can see on the right hand flank, I've completely lost it. He's going to be scoring for the rest of the game there. On the left hand flank, he's also threatening to score, so I'm going to have to clear them out with the Ashen Dawn. In the middle, I'm going to break through all of the groups of Force-grown drones pretty quickly, but then the Avatara, I'll have to try and beat that unit with just my Order of the Sword unit, so that's going to be difficult. So on the left here, the mercenary is getting in the way of his brute drones, which have just appeared, and I need to try and stop him from scoring for at least a little bit. So the Ashen Dawn want to be able to deal with each of those units one by one rather than all at once. So my opponent making a play which I didn't expect, which is for him to charge the Order of the Ashen Dawn here. I was quite surprised by that because he's sort of just gifting me this unit and allowing me to kill it more efficiently. Because what I can do here is I can just kill it without using Inspired, because I just don't need Inspired at this point. The Ashen Dawn are that strong, and then they march forward, and then they can actually kill the brute drones next turn. So here they are, just clashing the Abomination and wiping it out pretty easily, and marching forward into this objective. So my opponent making a small misplay there, I feel. The better play would have been to just either run away with the Abomination and just be annoying with it, or just walk to within an inch of the Ashen Dawn and just slow them down even further to prevent them scoring. Over here, Gilded Legion still hacking away at the Force-grown drones, but they keep coming back because they have regenerate. They do manage to kill them, though, because they are heavy infantry at the end of the day, and they do a lot of damage, so they do eventually wipe out the Force-grown drones, but they have a lot of other problems to contend with. And then they get charged in the flank, of course, by this other unit of Force-grown drones. My character here, the Warlord, using double time to march over to the left. You can see what I'm doing. I'm trying to go to that position at the top left there, where the brute drones are, because the Ashen Dawn are about to wipe them out. But with the militia the mercenaries not being scoring units, the Ashen Dawn are going to need to camp that for the points. They'll be wasted there. They need to move around to the middle of the table to deal with the Avatara. That's why I want to get the Rangers to shuttle the Imperial Officer over to that point to score for the rest of the game. Avatara now moving up, and again, this is a problem. My Gilded Legion are about to die. The Order of the Sword, I've already lost the stand for some reason, and to deal with this unit of Avatara is going to be quite rough. I need a little bit more cleave than I actually have to get through them, most likely. Brute drones just moving in and hacking and slashing these mercenary crossbowmen and slaughtering them so they'll be able to score, but the Ashen Dawn are coming to the rescue shortly. Here they are right here. So he's wiped out the crossbowmen. I still have the Ashen Dawn. I've lost a bunch of wounds on one stand because of that Abomination, but they are still hanging in there. Now, the Order of the Sword have effectively wiped out the Force drones and reformed to turn around. So they are scoring right now. But, yeah, they are going to have to contend with that unit of Avatara very, very soon, as you can see, just staring them down here. My opponent moving into the forest here with his Vanguard clones, reforming them, and he's going to just camp a Siegebreaker to score for the rest of the game. And his Archer's also reforming. And this is one of the reasons why I feel like I've lost, because no matter how this goes in the middle of the table, if I somehow deal with his Avatara, he is going to be able to move in with his Vanguard clones and the Archers at the same time and just pick off my infantry eventually. And the Ashen Dawn are going to be too late to really save the day. So here he is here, just camping out with this beautiful beast. I have the Ashen Dawn going first to wipe out the Brute Drones, and then the Gilded Legion if they survive, and then the Order of the Sword to try and possibly deal with the Avatara. We'll see. So this is the gameplay position. You can see on the left-hand side, I'm going to want to wipe out his Brute Drones with the Ashen Dawn. In the middle, we're going to go for a Hail Mary charge with the Order of the Sword onto the Avatara. And if you look any further right in the photo, like I've definitely lost. So here we go, Ashen Dawn just running in here and just wiping out the Brute Drones as expected. They stand no chance whatsoever against that many Ashen Dawn. Beautiful little pics here with the St. George and the Dragon with her custom Ashen Dawn sword. Siegebreaker, just chilling, just camping around here. Force-grown drones continuing to attack the Good Legion from the flank, which is kind of annoying. You know, they go from Clash 1 up to Clash 2, so just picking away at me. We then have the Order of the Sword here, so you can see between these two photos, I decided to Hail Mary it and just go for the charge. I need like a 5 on my roll, so I managed to pick it up, and they charge in there, and they have Blessed or something this turn, and I've got the character with 8 attacks, so they're mauling the Avatara, but, you know, he does have 4 stands of them, and they are defense 4, so I didn't really get that much work done. I think I killed like 1 stand. And, you know, I'm just hoping to get lucky here with the counterattack. So when he attacks me, I get the evade 2 and the rerolls. But in the long run, you know, with Aura of Death 4, again, it's just so stupid that the Lineage Highborn kind of has to just take the Aura of Death 1 and the free attack and +1 resolve, just because there are not any comparable upgrades. Like, it's just the same boring, you know, Legacy of the Arc character every single time. So they need to fix that. Great little photograph here, though. Love the sculpts. My Imperial Officer is just camping on the objective here that the Order of the Sword have left, because the Order of the Sword chasing after the Avatara vacates this part of the battlefield. So I'm just stopping here momentarily to get a little bit of points, but ultimately they're going to want to march over to where the Ashen Dawn are sitting later in the game. So over here, we have the Avatara attacking back, and of course they can actually attack twice, because when the Highborn activates, she can use her Ferromantic Overdrive, or whatever it's called, Override, to attack again, which is just absolutely murdering me. And then I get charged in the flank from the Vanguard clones, the Mimetic Assassin. We actually went through like 2 different duels between his character and my character here, where I've got 8 attacks, and I'm re-rolling misses, but she's got a whole bunch of armor, and then when she attacked me, I managed to pass my saves, despite, you know, having to re-roll my successful saves. So the prior commander didn't quite pick off the Lineage Highborn. She got really low on wounds, and then he decided to use his Mimetic Assassin to duel me, because my unit was broken, and, you know, I got wiped out. So, yeah, we just decided to call the game there. I hope you enjoyed this one. I did lose pretty badly, but it showed me a few things. First of all, Parabellum, until they can fix the mage, I really don't recommend taking any school other than the School of Fire. She's not really the kind of character that wants to be in combat. Most people usually run her in a mercenary crossbowman unit and just sits back using, you know, Kiss Farewell and the fire spells. So that's something I might do a bit more of in future. Obviously, the militia, I think I need to take 6 stands of militia. I need to take the Servite for Resolve 3, and I need to just be a bit more careful about units coming on from the reinforcement line on the side of the table. Had I managed to sort of fix those problems and think a bit more closely about what I was doing in the midfield, I think this game could have been a lot closer. I don't think it's like a problem with the factions at all. Spires and 100 Kingdoms, you know, pretty good matchup for each other. And I've got some ideas about how to come back and beat them up next game. So I hope you guys, you know, subscribe, like, and look out for the next video.